know what, JD? It's one of those things that you hear, and then you think about it, you process it a little, and then it's a day later, and you start thinking, man, that would be unbelievable. So Aaron Judge is in the Bay meeting with the San Francisco Giants. He did that yesterday, and you start to think about, could they really get him? And to me, JD, the Giants, of course, have struck out with the big-name free agents lately.
For the last 15 years or so.
But give me this. This one seems a little more tangible than either Stanton or Harper. Can you give me that? Can you meet me halfway, as Guru would say?
It does seem more plausible. I've said just in my watching of the Yankees throughout the year that I think something's going on there to where he's not as much of a lock to remain with the Yankees as it may think a player that has done as much for the Yankees and had as much success collectively as a team would be. So I just think, to me, there's something where he's ticked off they didn't pay him before the season. They went to that arbitration hearing where it got right up until the hearing before they figured out the year. It was almost as if, you're going to make me go out and be a record-breaking type of a player. Well, I'll break the American League record of home runs and there's just a little bit of just some contentiousness between he and the organization. It doesn't mean he doesn't ultimately go back, but I think there's more of a window for him to leave the Yankees. And then it's, if he's going to leave the Yankees, where would he go?
Right.
And there's this underlying, he's a Giants fan, and he watches Giants games even after the Yankees games are over on the East Coast, and there's just an affinity for being from California and liking the Giants that maybe he believes a little bit more in their special sauce or their vibe than another free agent would.
I hear you. And maybe that, at the end of the day, will be the thing that pushes him over the top.
Well, that and $400 million.
No doubt. But you know what? How about this for an unbelievable generalization? But my experience in sports is that whole hometown thing, for the most part, it's not tangible. And it doesn't really come to fruition. You know what I mean? Yes, there's going to be players who, quote unquote, go home. But, I always remember JD just hearing a story about Gary Payton. He didn't want to play here in Oakland at the time, which is where he was from, because he just had a ton going on here, and he just felt like it was better for his career to not be in this area. I don't know what Aaron Judge is like, but there's no doubt that the Giants have been pretty public with their pursuit of a big-name free agent, and obviously he's the biggest name. If they don't get him, if they don't get Judge in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I think there's going to be collective disappointment among Giants fans.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and me, JD, I'm not a huge fan or a huge contradictor, but I do think Farhan has showed in 3 or 4 years that he can put a team together. I mean, he can put a team together. All right, 1-1-107. This year, they stunk, and they won 81 games, you could say.
Sure.
So, I have no doubt he's going to be able to put together a competitive team. But I think if they don't get, let's say they don't get Judge, who's the number 1 free agent, but they get 6 and 11, that's not a failure to me.
Well, it wouldn't be in a sense, but I think there's more of a mandate to not just be good, but to be good and be a little flashier, to be good and have more star power. I think being good is something that if it's not done with a big name player, almost nobody's really going to care until June or July. And in essence, the Giants don't want to wait. And they want people caring.
I think that's
November 22nd, December 3rd, January 5th. They want people caring for the next 6 months.
Exactly.
This thing, not just, maybe this team, is this team good? Are they not? Oh, they had 40 and 30 in June. Oh, maybe they're good. With a bunch of no-name players.
And that's why
they want the hype they want the star power of believing the team's going to be, even if maybe they aren't as good. I think they'd rather have that next 4, 5, 6 months of cachet built up with people excited that they might be good.
There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And I think you hit the nail right on the head. And I also think, and you brought this up before the show, and it doesn't have to be anything huge, but you know what? Farhan probably doesn't want to sign Aaron Judge. It's kind of not his MO. But I think but you're right, it's above him, and they want to do it. And I agree. I don't think he's got a choice in the matter. I don't think he had a choice in the Harper wooing.
He's in a unique position, I think, because if you know Farhan Zaidi and just his baseball sensibilities between signing a player at Judge's age to potentially a 10-year contract, 10-year, $350 million contract or something like that, I think it would be like if the boss brings him in, if ownership brings Farhan in, Farhan can say, what do you think of this? Like, we want to go get Aaron Judge. And he, like, my bet would be that he says, guys, I just from a baseball standpoint, I wouldn't do it. Like, I get you want butts in the seats. I get you want excitement. But from a baseball standpoint, it does not make sense to pay him 10 years and $350 million. Just hypothetic for a guy who's 31 years old. It just doesn't, but at the same time, you've got the ownership saying, well, we want to do it. So it creates this odd scenario where does he say, now being a little bit, because I think patience is starting to wear thin on Farhan from outside, right?
Okay, but that's crazy. But go ahead.
Well, but what I'm saying is, like, Farhan can't. I think Farhan knows he's got to have a good team next year. Mm-hmm. I don't think he cares as much about the star power component to it, but I think the management or the ownership is saying, we got to do something flashy. We got to do something sexy. So he's thinking, well, what they want me to do is against what I want to do. Do I do it anyway? And if I do it anyway, am I gonna be held accountable if it doesn't work when it's not something that I would necessarily want to do?
I hear all those things. But
he doesn't have a choice because
he doesn't have a choice.
In a sense, he can't. He can't win boring anymore. Like, that's the thing. Well, I feel like the Giants don't want to. It's not just they want to win. They don't want to win boring.
That's right.
I think that's a thing now.
But that's still worse than losing. And Farhan, you're right. He doesn't have a choice on Judge. Here's what Farhan's probably doing. All right, let me know if we get him, because that's going to impact every single thing I do from this point on. And in fact, the fact that we're going after him like this is slowing me down with other moves that I really think would be productive and maybe a little less high maintenance. So I'm with you there. Where I'm also with you is, I believe the Giants management wants to create a buzz going into the season to sell tickets. But here's what else I know. And this is where I think, like, I try to look at the big picture. I think it's very possible that they could not have a great offseason, okay? And so there's either not a big buzz about the Giants or it's mostly negative. But you know what? What happens is what happens. And 2-3 months into the year, you're like, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. And that's where, if you're the San Francisco Giants, you will start drawing at that point. You will start drawing. The reason this team didn't draw last year was because they stunk. I know they ended up 81-81, but it was like a team that won 16 of 20 to meant nothing.
But it's not. But they didn't stink the whole year.
Right, exactly.
And they were 40-30 or something like that. Maybe it was 35-25. They were about 10, 11 games over 500 right around Father's Day. It was right around when the Warriors won the title.
But yes, but what I'm saying is, for fans, it always takes longer than you think it's.
But that's coming off of 107 wins.
Right.
So you would think that excitement would be high coming off 107 wins, and then it looks in June like, the team's not that bad, and then it cratered in the middle of the season.
The season starts in April. I mean, I'm talking basically, by July 1st, you got to be hanging around. And be pretty good.
And that was right when they dipped.
Okay.
Like they basically dipped. They dipped Father's Day.
Okay.
They looked like they were on pace to win, I don't know, low 90s up until Father's Day. And then they stunk for like 2 months. And then you're right. They played better at the end when it didn't really matter.
Farhan Zaidi, if he comes, like I said, they don't get Judge, but he comes out with the 6th best free agent and the 11th best free agent. That's not a failure.
That's not good
But it's not a failure.
It's not a failure but it's a...
So what do you, but you're not saying if they don't get Judge, it's a failure.
I'm not.
Okay, what do they have to do if they don't get Judge to not be a failure?
I think they do, and the fans' eyes have to get name talent. They have to go get Trey Turner.
Okay, so what are the other names?
They have to go get Justin Verlander or Jacob deGrom.
Okay.
Or they have to go, they got to add, I think, probably 3 big names. Like, that doesn't mean that all these guys are $35, $40 million a year players necessarily. They're not $300 million players. Judge is, or Turner might be $250 or whatever. But what I'm getting at is it's not enough to build it like the A's or the Rays. I think the Giants miscalculated their fan base in the sense that they thought building a winner would be enough. Building a team that wins, even if they're built like the Rays or built like the A's, where it's just it's a hodgepodge of guys, and maybe they're older guys that were still around or whatever, that would be enough to generate excitement, fill the ballpark, get people excited like it's 2012. And I think they've realized that doesn't work.
Well, doesn't it? Have they put a consistent playoff team out there since 14?
No, they've been a playoff team, twice?
Right. So they've
separated. Yeah.
16, they played the Cubs. They lost to the Cubs. Then they had the drought, and then there was the 107 win team. So I actually disagree with you there, JD. I think if the Giants next year go 90-72 and they make the playoffs, and they win a round and lose a round or something like that, then they come back the next year and they win 92 games, and they're same thing, maybe. They get to the NL. My point is, at that point, they'll be back to the hottest ticket in town, even if they don't have Aaron Judge.
I don't think,
Correa or Trey Turner.
And that's where I think there's been a shift.
Really?
I don't.
So has that happened recently?
I don't think they.
You think?
I think it's happened over the last couple of years. I think they thought that it would get. I think they thought doing it the way they did in 21 would work, and I think what they found is it didn't work. Because the excitement wasn't there at the level that they wanted it to be.
For a 107 win team.
Going into last year and then coming out of last year. Like, it didn't resonate. Like, it's always about the next year. You have the big year, and then it's...
So you're saying that it wasn't so much they were bad last year, it was that the 107 win team didn't resonate with the Bay.
It didn't resonate, and it also wasn't sustainably good.
Well, that I get. It was a one-off. But all I'm saying is, if they put together,
I don't think Farhan's going to get that much time.
Well, I hear you there, but I'm just trying to think of a franchise.
Like if they don't sign a star, it's harder for him to be successful. Like in a way, it's almost as if the Giants would rather sign Aaron Judge and be an 81-win team with Aaron Judge than not sign Aaron Judge and be a 91-win team without him.
You know what?
Because because everybody's gonna be pissed off for the next 5 months that you didn't get him or a star.
I think there's something to that, absolutely, but I think it's a little short-sighted. I think when seasons start, the slate's wiped clean, and if they're good, they're good. And I think in the Bay, were the 10, 12, and 14 teams exciting? No. They were pitching and defense for the most part.
Yeah, but
they got homegrown.
Homegrown, but also, Buster Posey was a star. Like, he was a boring star, but he was a star.
Okay.
Like, Tim Lincecum was a superstar. for his short period of time. Like he was an event. Like and yeah, they didn't sign him, but Tim Lincecum was kind of like he was a Steph Curry. Like you wanted to watch him pitch. You wanted to watch him play. What were you going to see? What was he going to do that blew you away on that? So I get what you're saying. It's kind of revisionist history in a way to go back and say, well, those teams are boring. Well, yeah, like they
well,
really
not necessarily
weren't.
Well, they were. Well,
like Bumgarner. Bumgarner
they weren't
boring?
Yes, he was. But their personalities became the story. That's what I'm saying. I mean, Tim Lincecum and Bumgarner to me are not the same.
No, they're not. But I think they're different versions of star.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it doesn't matter how you get the star.
What I'm saying is the reason you think Bumgarner resonate. Yeah, you know why? Because everybody. Oh, look at this guy with a snot rocket. Yeah, he's a good pitcher. You're winning World Series. Pitcher's a bad one to use because he was a strikeout guy. But Brandon Crawford. Okay, Brandon Crawford. He's very good shortstop. Okay? But why do you like him? Well, he's homegrown. He's got the long hair. He's got the cool long hair.
Sure.
Like Pagan. Like all those guys, they win and then more connects them to the fan, which is their personalities and stuff. And so, yeah, you may watch the Giants and think, oh, man, they're exciting when Pagan doubles. Do you see him give that salute? It's like, hit the pike. You know, that's not, like, yes, that's why the Giants were so popular, but that doesn't make them exciting
Well, it made them exciting to their fan base. Well, and again, it started with Lincecum.
But that's more personality-driven.
Because they thought Lincecum, well, I think it's also talent-driven. Like, again, like Buster Posey was a phenom coming up. And again, he's a boring personality. But Buster Posey was a immediate Rookie of the Year. He was an immediate champion, 5 months after he got called up to the big leagues for the last time. I know he got a little bit at the end of 2009, couple at bats, I think 8 at bats or something like that. But he comes up at the end of May in 2010, and he wins a Rookie of the Year. He helps him win a World Series. He goes on to be an MVP in 2012 when they win another World Series. Like Buster Posey was Steph Curry for the Bay before Steph Curry was Steph Curry. Now, Curry's taken it to another level, but it was the same kind of thing. And Lincecum, the same kind of thing.
Yes.
Shorter term.
You're absolutely right. Here's what I'm saying. They want Judge to be that.
Because they can't, they haven't homegrown anybody like that.
But whatever. That's what they want out of Judge. They don't get Judge. Give me the 7th and 12th best free agent.
Yeah.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, and I don't even need a name. But if they get the 7th and 12th best free agent, those guys, go ahead.
I happen to have a list.
Okay,
and I'm going to have to adjust the list.
Pick 2 positions they need.
I have a list of top 20 free agents from a couple of weeks ago. 7 on this list is Dansby Swanson from the Braves.
Okay, so you get him.
Okay.
And who's 12? Make sure he fits a position.
Yeah, 12 is I gotta move off of 12 and 13 because Tyler Anderson's already signed, and the Giants already had Tyler Anderson, and Clayton Kershaw was the other one. He's already signed. Okay, right? He's signed, right? Maybe not.
1-year deal, I think, to go back.
He signed.
L.A.
Yeah. So the next player on that list is like Jose Abreu.
Okay. We don't know a lot about those 2 guys, right?
Well, I mean,
would that be a failure? Disappointing?
Jose Abreu won the MVP 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, but here's all I'm saying. Even though those guys,
Dansby Swanson, Jose Abreu, and I'm trying to find a pitcher, but
what I'm getting at is those guys, if they perform and start winning, then whatever their personality traits are, the fans connect to make them want to come to more games. It's not like, we need a gimmick, and I think some Giant fans think I'm saying we need a gimmick. No, the way we love Steph Curry, not because he's great, but because we've gotten to know him for 14 years.